All right, it happened again. You left one job and you went and started a new one, and that could only mean one thing. Okay, actually, it probably means several different things, but the one we're going to talk about today in today's video is the fact that you left that 401k plan just kind of hanging out there at the old employer. Okay, this is a very, very common topic. What to do with an old 401k plan. This video, I'm going to kind of sketch out just in a rough outline your general options with that. Feel free to skip ahead if you just want to get straight to the answer. But first, a little background. Why is this a problem now, whereas maybe you probably didn't grow up hearing your parents and certainly not your grandparents talking about this problem? So why is this kind of a new phenomenon? Well, just think about how it used to be. Kind of back in the good old days, what you'd do is you'd find a good job with a good employer and you'd just kind of put your head down. And then, 30 or 40 years later, when you're ready to retire, that company, as a sign of their appreciation for all your hard work, they would give you a nice pension for your retirement and they'd kind of send you off into the sunset, right? And that was kind of the end of your career. Well, clearly that's no longer the case, right? So, anymore today, it's like pensions have all but just gone by the wayside entirely. There's only a couple of companies out there still offering pensions, and they're rapidly phasing those out as we speak. We actually talk about this a lot internally, where we kind of question, how did that happen? Did companies start curtailing their benefits to include pensions, or did employees kind of just start becoming less and less loyal? I don't know what the chicken or the egg there, like which happened first. And if you know anyone who knows the answer to that question, I'd be fascinated to talk to them. In point of fact, the way it is today is employees hop from one employer to the next. It's a kind of like way to climb up in terms of compensation, in terms of job title, and therefore, employers, they don't offer any long-term benefits to their customers in terms of pensions and other things. And so you have the situation. So you in your career, it's not at all uncommon to go, look up halfway through your career and go, okay, I have these 5 retirement accounts, 401ks at 5 different companies associated with 5 different previous employers. And you could very well just sit up in bed and go, I have no idea how much money I have. I have no idea how many dollars are in those accounts. I don't know where they are, right? At one point, I try and go log in and that's not there anymore, right? So this happens a lot because one 401k plan provider will, strike a deal with the company and they'll move the plan to a new company. So all of a sudden, you don't even know where your money's at. So this is the root of the problem, is essentially tracking all your retirement dollars wherever they may be held. And then let alone, even if you know where they're held, what are all the different investments in those accounts? Are they appropriately allocated? So these are the types of questions that lead one to want to ask the question, what should I do with my old 401k plan? So let's start talking about some answers here. You got options. So let's do this. I'll just list the options and then we'll go through and kind of start, analyzing and comparing, pros and cons for each. So your options with your old 401k plan. Number one, you can just leave it there. There's nothing to say that you have to do anything, right? There are some circumstances where you would have to do something, but most of the times you can just leave it. Number two, you can actually roll it or transfer it into your new 401k at the new company, right? So that is an option. We can talk about it. And the third is you can transfer it out of the 401k universe to the IRA universe, the individual retirement account. Okay, if I'm being fully forthcoming, there is a fourth option. I'm kind of intentionally avoiding it because I think you probably also should avoid it. There's another option. You could just cash it out. You know what I mean? You could call the 401k provider and say, just cut me a check. Yes, I know I owe taxes. Just send me the money. And again, that is rarely advisable, but it is technically one of your options. We'll focus on the first 3. Right? So leave it put, transfer it to new 401k, transfer it to an IRA. So what I'm about to tell you about these different options is something we tell our clients and prospective clients kind of ad nauseum, just so they understand their options. So, because the point is, you have a choice. You ought to be well informed about the choice and the pros and cons involved with it, and then you should intentionally decide. So inherent with this whole conversation is just a comparison of 401k versus IRA. And we actually have a whole separate video that kind of goes through and compares those 2 vehicle types. But I encourage you to go watch that video. The gist is, 401k generally is going to be kind of a lower cost investment vehicle option. If you kind of think of the fact that it's offered through an employer as kind of a group benefit, just like you kind of get group discounts on stuff like life insurance and stuff like that, you can kind of think of it in a similar way. It's like a pretty low cost place to have your investment funds. However, you're restricted in the types of investments that you can have in there. I mean, most 401ks, if you look, it's like a menu of, 10, maybe 15, 20 different mutual funds. and that's it. The IRA universe is generally far less restricted. You can kind of sky's the limit in terms of investments you can have in there. Back to the 401k side, not only are you restricted, but you have to decide what to pick, right? There's not like, can't really bring in outside, professional guidance in terms of how to invest that money and how to trade it and everything. It's kind of like you're the plan participant and you make those decisions. Over on the IRA side, that's where someone like our office would come in, and if you move those funds to your IRA, you're unrestricted in terms of the investments you can have, and you can hire a professional to actually help you do that. Of course, there are costs associated with that, right? And compensating the professional, the different investment choices you could make and their costs, and you have to be kind of cognizant of all of those things. So in general, you're kind of comparing 401k to IRA. Now, the second option is you could move it from the old 401k to the new 401k, right? So if you were attracted to the 401k space, in general, you could just leave it in that type of investment, just move it to the new one, so you have less old ones just kind of hanging out there. Well, you'd have to check for, so first off, again, the category of consideration here is you kind of have to do this on your own, whereas you may not be well versed in these types of things, right? So you need to contact the new 401k provider, confirm that they do in fact allow what's sometimes called a roll-in, right? Not a rollover, but a roll in, right? So, hey, new 401k provider, will you accept funds from the old one? And most of them will, because why would they not, right? But anyway, they're going to have their own process that they'll lay out for you and kind of that you'll need to then navigate. Then you call the old 401k provider and initiate that process. And again, you would presumably be doing this unaided, hence like possibility for error in tax events and things like that is just something you need to be aware of. But yeah, we've had people do that in the past, successfully navigate that, move funds from old 401k to new 401k. A lot of our clients, especially they're midway through their career or later, they go, I got these 6 retirement accounts standing out there. Will you just help me consolidate all this and manage it moving forward? That's kind of the draw of the IRA space. And really, I mean, that's just about sums it up. 3 main options: leave it, move it to the new 401k, move it to your IRA. Oh, there is the 4th option of cashing it out. I highly encourage you to double consider that before you pull the trigger on that. And for that matter, if you're hearing these kind of general options and you go, well, but I have this special case going on. I mean, obviously that's where our office would come in, is like hearing the particulars of your case and helping you navigate the application of these general principles to your situation. And we're happy to do that. There's a link always here in the description to book a complimentary consultation, and we would be honored and thrilled to do that with you. Talk soon.